Good evening, dear compatriots. The Joint Information Center continues its activities from the city of Goris. At this moment, let's talk about the situation on the front line and then I'll answer your questions. Today, starting from the morning, the Azeri armed forces started their offensives both in the south and in the north. In the southern part, with more forces, the offensive was launched. The Armenian armed forces, they fired back and destroyed a lot of armory and soldiers and pushing back the adversary to the initial line. So these kind of small efforts have been done in other directions, but at the moment, so severe battles are taking place in the southern part in particular. Today and during the whole last night, and I personally witnessed that, so the Azerbaijan armed forces, they missiled and shelled different settlements of Artsakh, in particular Stepanakert, Shushi, and others. You know, as a result of today's bombardment, there are casualties among your colleagues, reporters. Today, twice, which proves one more time that was done intentionally. So the Azerbaijani armed forces, they hit by missiles the cathedral of Ghazanchetots in the city of Shushi, and as a result of that, substantial damages have been caused to that cathedral. There were civilians there, and we are now. I think the Artsakh's ombudsman's office will speak about the results of casualties and damages. And if we summarize the results of Azerbaijani aggression and their strikes onto the civilians only in Artsakh, we have the following picture. In general, we have 93 casualties, and only 20 of them are of light and medium level casualties. We have 20 killed, not counting one person was killed in the territory of Republic of Armenia. 4,600 buildings have been damaged. More than 4,000 vehicles and other type of assets were damaged. So 750 different infrastructures and other public and commercial objects were damaged. And this is without the results of last night and this morning's offensives. This is the general situation. As I said, at the moment there are really severe battles, and at the moment I can't speak about any tactical successes or defeats, both during the last night and during today. So the results, they have to be summarized. So this much. Now I can take the questions from the floor. So Center TV channel, Vachik Grigorian, Mr. Hovhannisyan, this morning the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, made a statement, and a few hours ago the National Security Agency also made another statement that there are people that are making statements that Nikol Pashinyan is a traitor, and they convinced even our soldiers to give up certain positions, and those traitors were doing this kind of propaganda. So, well, I don't know, frankly speaking, if there was such a statement. That means the National Security Service, counterintelligence, and others that are responsible for this sector, they have some facts or factors, and it's very important that this kind of things were found out. Nevertheless, I would like to find out whether, do you have any information whether this kind of propaganda is carried out, this kind of incidents happened in different parts of the front line? Because the Prime Minister said that according to his information, Similar cases have taken place in other parts of the front line. I can't exclude anything I don't know, so this is the prerogative of the special services. So, so even in the most delicate situation, it's possible to find out this kind of traitors. So Artur Matveev, so unfortunately, the translation wasn't clear, so I'll ask in Russian. So those who follow these events from Russia, the events that have taken place in Shushi, and what happened, our reporters were shot, and what is possible to do to avoid this kind of situation in the future. So my information is the following, that one of the reporters is in a really critical condition. So how it happened, it's hard to predict or explain, because if the country shoots at certain objects and knowing, for example, that this is a church and there are people, so it's needless to use other explanations. The rest is an absurd. Yes, incident also happened before that in city of Martuni when the French reporter was wounded. They know very well that there are a big group of international reporters are working in Artsakh, and they aim at them. They don't care about the opinion of the international community. They just trying to shoot, to destroy the reporters. Reporters are targets. And so you see yourself, it's happening in front of your eyes. Stepanakert, Shushi, they are not kind of big cities, and it's well known what is where. So I would like you to tell the whole world what's happening here. In order to avoid in the future this kind of incidents, I don't know what needs to be done. If maybe you don't go there, but I understand that you and your colleagues, they would like to go to the front line. It's normal, it's a human behavior. But the same thing is not happening on their side, because we are not shooting at them, at civilians, at others, and they don't have reporters. It's like closed on the other side. So otherwise the whole world would know who's right, who's wrong. So would you please give some additional information about these casualties, the reporters? Right now I don't have any information. In an hour I'll clarify, find out, and then I'll electronically let you know. So I have the same kind of question. So is there an asymmetric strike like the one that was hit by Shushi? So if you mean symmetric hitting, striking on some cultural objects, no, we haven't done and will we not do that. So during the last war, they sent 1,000 shells to Stepanakert, and this church was the warehouse of those shells. So from in the backyard of this cathedral, there was a missiles launching system Grad, and they were shooting from there. We live here for centuries. We know very well their nature, their handwriting, their way of thinking. It's important to tell the whole world, so to make the whole world to know about that. Mr. Hovhannisyan said that our armed forces they continue destroying the ammunition of the adversary, and and they keep using this shelling, and there's notion that put in circulation about 40% of their ammunition has been destroyed. So I will not say you some exact figures because this is something is part of the military planning, and but of course it's not this kind of things are not endless. Even if you have parallel supplying, you can't really recover all those losses of ammunition because during first 5 days their losses are huge, and now we see that the intensity is different. Instead of that, they use far-range artillery, and so they have more in terms of artillery rather than the armory. But the fact that they are trying to replenish their stocks and continue this kind of genocidal actions, it's obvious. How long will it last? It's very hard to forecast. Mr. Hovhannisyan, could you please tell us which part belongs to Azerbaijan among these ammunition, arms, and the biggest part is Russian-made, Soviet-time made this kind of weapons, and as we also do have. The high technological weaponry belongs to Israel and some Turkish share also. Also, there is a Turkish share in their in the stocks of their conventional weaponry. So they have different types of shells, just Turkish manufactured guns, and this is the main breakdown of their ammunition and weaponry. If there are no questions, Mr. Hovhannisyan, I would like to read the questions that we received from our colleagues from Gala TV. Our friends ask, at the moment, how many injured civilians and soldiers do we have, and what's their condition right now? I can't say a final figure. I think that so our medical services will speak about those figures. I can say a good thing, good news, that due to the high professional level of our doctors or medical service, about 30% of casualties within 24 hours, in fact, receiving the adequate medical aid, they go back to their regiments. It's a very high percentage. And we have to take into account the armed forces, both sides. They have very high density of artillery bombardment, thousands of shells during the day. Okay, one more question. So the fact that aggressor hysterically bombarded St. Kazanchitsov's cathedral, is this something a reflection of their despair, or it was a well-planned operation? I think both. Yes, the despair and these kind of steps, I don't know which are the right words to use. These kind of steps were done on the background of their losses in the battlefield. On the other hand, we know that all our sacred holy places were target for them, regardless where they are and what are the methods of targeting them, using hammers or explosives or shells and missiles. So the Prime Minister said that some people are trying to convince the soldiers to abandon their positions. What's the reason for this, and how we are going to fight these kind of things? Dear friends, during the wars, unfortunately, in parallel with heroism, in our case of mass heroism, treason also happens. Unfortunately, these are inevitable things during the wars. The most important is that the strategic management system keeps the situation under control, finds the deficiencies, corrects it, and move ahead. So our strength is very high. My friends asked me that there was information on internet that Armenian soldier was imprisoned by the aggressor. So I don't have clear information, but I said that there is intensive battles when there are a lot of moves back and forth. It's very intensive battles are taking place. So the likelihood of imprisonment is very high. You can't really preclude that or exclude that. Do you have any information what were the missiles that were used to strike the cathedral Ghazanchetsot in Shushi? Is it possible that F-16 fighters strike the cathedral? Right now I don't have information about these strikes. It requires an investigation, but mainly Shushin, Stepanakert, Dadrut and Martuni, they are hit by different missiles. Mainly there are 4 types of missiles, more 1 or 2 of them. These are Smerch type systems, Kasirga system, Polonaise system, LA 100 LoRa 160, and in case of Shushi, I assume it was not used. This is the expensive thing. Israeli ballistic missile LoRa. These are they're kind of quite. They have quite long range, and this kind of properties used for hitting cities. Today, our foreign colleagues got hit next to Gaziantep's cathedral. What's the information? Are there Armenian reporters, foreigners? So I said that in order not to repeat, in 1 hour we'll give clear information about their situation, their status. Thank you. At the moment, these were all the questions. Maybe some questions are being repeated. That's why I don't want to read them. I want to repeat, dear friends, at this moment, active military operations are going on, and in the morning it's possible that we'll give additional information about military operations that are happening now and during the night. As yesterday I traveled to Artsakh and I was there during the night. I witnessed how these strikes are taking place upon Stepanakert and Shushi, etc. One more question. So the identification, have you done identification of the corpse of killed Azeri soldiers? And can you identify the Syrian jihadists among them? Identification is very complicated, taking into account during this kind of active military operations, when the density of the artillery strikes is very high. It's very hard to do that. Often, the corpses are not intact even, but the relevant specialists, they'll do the identification, and then we will provide you summary information on this. There was a video just recently that Azeri side has captured Jibrail. So this video is like 3-4 days old, and today it looks like funny, really. And the last question that came from our colleagues from Reuters. Do you have information how many volunteers you have in the Armenian army up to now? Tens of thousands. I can't tell you the exact figure. Tens of thousands. Thank you, Mr. Hovhannisyan. We exhausted the questions. Thank you. Follow us in Yerevan, in Stepanakert, in Shushi. Sorry, I shouldn't say Shushi, Goris. We'll work together, and thank you. I want to thank you, my special thanks to you, that you knowing very well from the first day that you endanger your life, but still you go to Stepanakert, Shushi, and other cities, and the front line, and you do the coverage, and you show the world the reality, the truth. This much.